All right, so let's take a look and kind of review what we're doing here. So we had this program, this Nolan Ryan program, where you're keeping track of some of Nolan Ryan's baseball pitching statistics. And so today I want to kind of take what we've done so far and expand it. So if you look back on the input file, so we've got all this stuff here. So we've got, in his input file, we've got the number of, on each line it's a different season, right? A different year. So it's like the number of wins for that year, number of losses for that year, his ERA for the year, the number of strikeouts, and the team he played for. So far we've just been focused on his strikeouts, right? So we kind of skipped over everything else and just grabbed the strikeouts and put that in a one-dimensional array. So today I want to kind of expand this so we'll get everything. And so the idea here, if you want a little drawing, see if I can draw. So what do we have? We had strikeout already, right? But we're gonna expand it and declare and use some more one-dimensional arrays. So I'm going to have an array called win to keep track of his wins, a separate one-dimensional array of integers for his losses. I'm just going to call it loss. And then a double array called ERA. And then we'll have the strikeout array. We've already got that one, right? Sorry, I'm not an artist. And then a team array. Yeah, that's what I named it. It's an array of strings to keep track of which team he played for. And they're all going to be the same size. So they're all of size 26 or num years. We have that constant set up. So you get the idea. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so they're all the same size, but they're separate arrays, right? That's one limitation with arrays. You can't have an array that has like some integers in there, some doubles, some strings. They all have to be of the same data type. So on this one, it makes sense to just kind of have separate arrays for everything. But they're all the same size, and as long as we don't rearrange the order of any one of them, there's a consistency there between like which seasons are which, right? The first element in every array is going to be talking about his first season, right? The last element in every array is going to be talking about his last season, and so forth. So we can say that these are in parallel. They're just like things in parallel, right? So as long as I don't change the order of anything, there's a consistency there, right? And so that's what we call this concept, parallel arrays, right? So with that, let's add some more arrays. So I'm going to go back to my code here, and I'm going to add some stuff, okay? And if you want to, you could even save this file with a different file name so that you have your original file plus your new one if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of add stuff to it. So when we let's go to main. Let's go to our main, and we're going to add some things. So far we've just got the strikeout array, and then total and high and low values, and high and low indexes, which we haven't done those yet, but I'll show you how to do those here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and do them all when we do that one. And then a strikeout average. Okay. So I'm going to add some more arrays, and I'm going to try to organize it here, and I'll try to be consistent I try to have some sort of consistency on names, like for example, if I use like a singular name like strikeout instead of strikeouts, I try to be consistent with that everywhere. So that's what I've chosen to do here. So go up to main, and we're going to add some more things. So I'm going to add a one-dimensional array of integers called win. And it's the same size, num years. I'm going to use the same size there. So int win num years. And then I'm going to add one called loss. Also same size num years. And then a double for the ERA because it has decimals in it. Right? Remember the ERA is earned run average. Oops. All the same size, num years. Another one, oh wait, we don't need the strikeout. We've already got the strikeouts, right? So I'm gonna add it. I'm gonna try to kind of group things together. I've got the strikeout array that we were using last time. And then one more, a string array named team, also of size num years. Right. So I've got 5 different arrays, and those are going to store all these things that are coming from our input file. So this is win, this will be win, loss, ERA, strikeout, and team, like that. All right, and then I'm going to keep track of certain things for each of these arrays. So for example, for the win array, I'm going to find the total number of wins. That would be interesting. How many wins did Nolan Ryan have over his career, right? Also the number and his. I'm also going to keep track of the high and the low index for the win array. So what were his best year and worst year as far as wins go. And then also the average number of wins. So I'll have some variables for those. So I'm going to kind of group all those together. I'm going to say int, I'm going to name it win total. I'd named my strikeout one strikeout total, so I'll name this one win total. And then int win high index, like that. And int win low index. And then one for the average is a double. I'll say double win average, like that. So those will be all the win related things I'm going to keep track of. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the loss array. So I'm going to have those same variables just for loss. In fact, you could copy and paste that if you wanted to. I'll just go ahead and type it again. Loss total, int loss high index, int loss low index, and double loss average, like that. For the ERA, I'm going to keep track of the high and the low index on the ERA. I'm not going to worry about like a total or an average. An ERA itself is an average, right? Earned run average for that year or whatever. So anyway, I'm just going to do the high and the low index. So I'm going to say int ERA high index, int ERA low index.
It wouldn't be a double.
No, yeah, good question. So no, the high and the low indexes will be integers. Even though the ERA array is a double array, right? They're all doubles in there. But what I'm going to be keeping track of here with the high and the low index is the position in the array of where the high and the low is, not the actual high and low values. And the indexes are all integers. So int would be the right data type there. Yeah, if I was keeping track of the high and the low values for the ERA, then I'd want to make those doubles. All right, cool. And then let's see if there's anything else. We've got our strikeout things already, right? So strikeout total, strikeout high, strikeout low, and then the index is strikeout high index, low index, and the strikeout average. And I'm not gonna, there's no stats to keep track of on his team or anything that I'm worried about. All right. So does everybody have that? You want me to go back up? These are the new, all those are the new things that I added there. And that should still compile, right? I just added a few variables and arrays. Everybody cool? Questions so far? Everybody good? All right, so now that we have those things declared, let's go and get them. So we have a function get input already that was just getting the strikeout stuff. So we could take that function and we could add some stuff to it. So go down to your get input function. So here it is right here. So get input, right now we're just getting the strikeout array. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna add some stuff to it. So basically we just need to add those new arrays. And so, I want to try to be consistent with it as far as my order goes. And so I'm going to try to stick with the order that they're here. So I'm going to send in the win, loss, ERA, then the strikeout, and then the team. Okay. So let's modify our parameter list on get input. So here we're going to send in, we're going to say int win, open and close square bracket, comma, int loss, open and close square bracket, and then a double ERA, open and close square bracket, and then you got your strikeout array that's already there. And then after that, I'll add one more. So I'll say string team, open and close square bracket, and then I'll leave the input file as my last thing that I sent in there. So like that. And so we're modifying the function heading here. So before this will work, we're going to have to go back and modify the function prototype and the call as well, right? So after we have those new parameters there, then down here in the function, if you remember what we did, we had these ignore lines in here that would just kind of skip over all those things. So we should replace those with input statements that will pick up the other input now. So I can kind of, in fact, I'm just going to delete all those ignore statements. I'll come back to that in a second. So here's, and so all these things are just kind of numbers. So we could kind of do this, or at least the first part until we get to the team name. We could do this on one line if we wanted to. We could just say in file into win subindex. So pick up the win first, and then another extraction operator, loss subindex, right? And then extraction operator, ERA subindex. And then didn't get the strikeout, right? That's the next thing. So I could just kind of take that, add that there. Win, loss, ERA, strikeout, and the next thing is the team, right? Win, loss, ERA, strikeout, and then the team. Now here's the the thing that's a little tricky on the team. The team name comes next. Technically, none of Nolan Ron's teams had 2 words in there. But if you ever wanted to use this program in the future for other pitchers or players, there's a few teams that I think might be 2 words. Well, I'm not sure if like Red Sox and White Sox, and are they the Devil Rays still, or are they just the Rays now? I'm not sure. Anyway, there's a few teams that might have 2 names in there. So I'm going to use the getLine function to pick up the name. So and I specifically put the team name at the end so that I could do that. So I'm going to say getLine, and then inside of parentheses, it's coming from infile. Yeah, it's coming from infile, and I'm going to store it into team subindex like that. Okay. Now, when it's reading in, remember the extraction operator will skip over spaces, but getLine doesn't. So when I'm reading stuff in, it's going to be at this point. And if I just say getLine to get the rest of the line, it'll get all that, including that space before the team name. So if you don't deal with that space, then all of your team names are going to start with a space. They're going to be like Space Mets, Space Angels, and so forth like that. So, but we can, Space Angels, that would be kind of a cool name for a team though, right? Anyway, but we can ignore that one space if we want to. So that would look, we can modify this little, this ignore function here. I'm going to say skip space before team name. So ignore the next one character or until it gets to a space, which, they'll probably end up being the same there, and then get the rest of the line for the team. And the getLine function will, we say, consume the end of line marker as well. So it'll skip over that. Of course, the next time I'm reading stuff in, the extraction operator would skip over that anyway. So I think that's what we want there. Does that make sense? So get the win array. And every time it goes through the loop, it's going to be dealing with a different line of input, right? Because index will be changing from 0 all the way through 25. So pick up the first number, stick it in the win array. Pick up the second number, put it in the loss array in the correct spot wherever I am. Then pick up the next number, put it in ERA. And ERA is a double, so it'll keep reading through the decimals and everything. And then pick up the next number, put it in strikeout, skip over a space, and then get the rest of the line in the team name, in the team. Everybody got that? All right, so now what do we need to do? We need to modify our function prototype and our function call, right? Because those are still the old version. So we need to add these new arrays. So we've got int, double, and so forth. So I think I can remember those. So I'm going to go back up here to where my prototypes are. And so I've got my get input array. So we'll modify this to match up with what we have down there now. And again, you could always just copy and paste the heading and add a semicolon. That's the easy, short way to do it. So I'll say that'll be the win array. And then here's the loss array. Here's the double ERA array. Here's the strikeouts array. String. Here's the team array. So again, win, loss, ERA, strikeout, team, and then the input file. So remember, everything's got to be consistent as far as your parameters go. got to have the same number of parameters everywhere, and they've got to be the right data types, and they've got to be the same type of thing that you're sending, whether it's an array or a variable by reference or value or whatever. Right? So I've got that, and now we need to modify the input, the get input function call. Right? Does everybody have that? So go down to the function call for get input and send stuff in. Make sure you've got it in the right order. So we're sending in win, comma, loss, comma, ERA, comma, strikeout, and then the team and in file. Win, loss, ERA, strikeout, team, and in file. And if all goes well, that will still compile and run. And then check this out. If we want to kind of test it just to make sure that we're getting good input, and it's always a good idea to do that, we could take our little test code input stuff that we have down here, or whatever we called it, and we have this for loop already where we were testing out to make sure that we're getting the strikeout array. I can modify that a little bit. I'll put curly brackets around all this. Let me see here. And I'll use set width to kind of get stuff to look a little prettier. So output the win array, subindex, right? Then the loss array, subindex. Maybe increase the field width a little bit for the ERA. Here's my, oh wait, there's my strikeout. I already had that, didn't I? Strikeout, subindex. Team name, or team. Subindex. And then go down the next line, like that. So this way I can just get an idea, okay, did that work or not? So when I compile and run that, there you go, there's my win, loss, ERA, strikeout, team name. If you want to throw a set precision in there someplace, you can. Maybe up there before it. Like a see out, was it fixed, show point. Set precision to 2 on the ERA is what we had. There you go. And again, this is just to kind of test it out. See if it's working. So it looks like mine's working. So get that going, and then we'll go on and do some useful stuff with it. I'm going to pause this for a second. All right, so we've got our input going. Let's deal with the totals. So go down to your, we already have this function that's calculating the totals, right? Calc total average. So go down to that function, and we're going to add some stuff to calc total average, just like we did on get input. All right, so here I'd send in the strikeout stuff. I'm going to send in the win and loss stuff as well. And again, I'm going to try to be somewhat consistent on my order. So I'm going to send in the win stuff first. In fact, you know what you could do? You could just copy and paste your parameter list here. Check this out. I'm going to copy it, then I'm going to paste it, and change those to the wins, and then a comma. Paste it again. We'll change those to the loss things. So let me show what I'm doing here. I'll try to clean it up a little bit. So we have the win array, the win total, and then the win average, no, I'm going to send them all still as constant arrays. And remember what that does? Remember, arrays are always passed by reference. And so if you don't want to allow the function, the power to change it, you could put the word const in front. So that's what I'm doing there. There you go. So let me kind of read over that. So we have const int win. So there's the win array. And then we have the win total by reference, the win average by reference. Okay, so that's all the win stuff. And then the loss stuff. So const int loss, that's the array. Loss total by reference, that's an integer. Loss average by reference, that's a double. Then we had our strikeout array that we had already. So we had the strikeout array, and then the strikeout total, int by reference, strikeout average, double by reference. Yeah, like that. So that's your parameter list. And then I'm just going to add some stuff to what we have already. So we can use the same loop and everything here. So up here we said we always need to start our totals at 0. So we started off the strikeout total at 0. I'm going to do the same thing for the win and the loss arrays. So I'm going to say the win total is equal to 0. Loss total is equal to 0. So initialize all three of those to 0, because you want to start them all off at 0. And then we have this loop, and remember what the loop does? Every time it goes through the loop, it adds one of the values to the total. So we're doing it here for the strikeout array, but we could go ahead and do it for the others as well. But remember, if you have multiple statements inside a loop or an if statement or whatever, you have to group them in curly brackets, inside curly brackets. So move that up there. So I'll do the win one first. So win total is equal to win total plus win sub index, like that. Again, you could have just said win total plus equal win subindex. And then I have loss total is equal to loss total plus loss subindex. So I'm just doing the same exact thing for the win and loss arrays. Like that. Then after you get the totals, we can get the averages. So just like we got the strikeout average there, we can add code to get the other averages as well. So win average is just equal to, and then we should typecast the total if we want to do floating point division. So it's win total divided by num years, like that. And then do the same thing for the loss, right? Loss average is equal to double loss total divided by double num years. And then after we get all that in, and so that's all we're adding there. Now we need to go up and add our new parameters to our parameter list in our prototype and our function call. All right, so let's update our prototype and our call. And basically we just need to add, multiply what we have there already by 2, right? So here's calc total average. We had sent in an array, int by reference and double by reference. So I'm going to copy that. So that will be for the win array. Do it again for the loss array, and then a third time for the strikeout array. So let me kind of organize that. I'm going to put these on separate lines. Oh, wait. There you go. I think that's easier to read. So we've got the array, and they're all integer arrays, right? We're not, this function is not doing anything to the ERA array. So we've got the win array, loss array, the strikeout array. This is the totals and the average. Like that. All right. So after you get your prototype updated, let's update our call. So go down to your function call. Here's calc total average. So again, we're sending in win, win total, win average, loss total, loss average, and then what we have already: strikeout total, and strikeout average. Yeah. Oh, I have an error. Where'd I mess up there? Strikeout was not declared in the scope. Strikeout average was not declared in the scope. I forgot my comma right there. There's my comma. There we go. Okay, so let me go. There's, where were we? There were the function calls right there. If we want to get a quick idea whether or not those totals are working, for example, in the average, I could add some stuff down here. Does everybody have the call? And you know, think about it. I try to use a logical order. So down here, I outputted some stuff like the strikeout total and stuff. We can add some stuff underneath there just to get a quick idea if it's working or not. I could say cout. Where am I? This will be the win total. Win total, something like this. And then the win average. Maybe his loss total. Loss average. Here you go. His total number of wins is 324. Total losses was 291. Here's his average and his for his win and his loss. So 300 wins is like a big milestone type of number for pitchers, right? I was looking at the all-time win leaders. Of course, Nolan is known for his strikeout pitching, right? So he holds the record for the most strikeouts. He doesn't hold the record for the most wins, though. In fact, he was a little bit further on down on the list. Let me find that. All-time wins list, pitchers. Okay, here you go. The all-time wins list. You know who's first on the list? Cy Young, right? As you've probably heard of the award that goes to the best pitcher, right? The Cy Young Award. It's probably why they call it that, right? But got some people like Walter Johnson, Pete Alexander that go a while back. Number 8 on the list is Greg Maddux. Greg Maddux is probably my favorite pitcher of all time. I always liked him because he he wasn't like the most powerful pitcher, or as far as like how hard he threw, but he was so precise. He could just hit any spot that he wanted to, and he would outsmart hitters and stuff. And so I always liked him. Pitched for the Atlanta Braves most of his career, and then he pitched for a few other teams, like maybe the Padres and the Cubs, I believe. Roger Clemens is 9th on the list with 354. Where is Nolan Ryan? Nolan Ryan is tied for 14th on the list with 324. Again, there was like part of a season. There's a few stats that I didn't include there. Tom Glavine is number 21 on the list. He was on most of those Atlanta Brave teams with Greg Maddux. Man, they had some good pitchers. They had Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, and John Smoltz all at the same time. Let's see. Active players with the most wins. Your active players that are still playing that have the most wins. Bartolo Colon is my age. he's old. He's 45 years old. He's got 247 wins. Of course, I have mixed feelings about Bartolo Colon. He's gotten in trouble a couple times for steroids and things like that, right? So that kind of irritates me. But anyway, that's a whole different story. CC Sabathia, number 2 with 246. So no current pitchers have over 300 wins in their career that are still playing. Justin Verlander is number 3 with 204. Here are some other notable names. Clayton Kershaw is number 9th. Of course, he's a little bit younger. He's only 30 years old with 153 wins. David Price has 143. He's 32. Anyway, I think it's kind of interesting. All right. How'd that go? Y'all stuck on anything? All right, so that's the totals and the averages. Let's deal with the highs and the lows, okay? So last time we wrote a function to find the high and the low values in the strikeout array. And I told you that I was going to show you how to, instead of finding the high and low values, I'm just going to show you how to keep track of the indexes of where the highs and lows are. But we didn't write any of that. So let's go ahead and write that, and we'll include all of our things that we're keeping track of. So this one's going to be a little bit longer, but you'll see this kind of the same thing over and over again. So go down to the bottom, and we're going to add a new function here. All right, so this one's going to be a void function. I'm going to name it find high-low index. Find high-low index. And so we're going to keep track of the indexes for the win array, the loss array, the ERA array, and the strikeout array. So we've got 4 different arrays to kind of keep track of. So I'm going to try to do them in a consistent order here. So I'm going to say, and I'm putting consts in front of them again because we're not going to be changing the arrays. So technically you don't have to do that, but it's a good programming practice, I think. So const int win, open and close square brackets, and then int ampersand. This is going to be win high index, and int ampersand win low index, like that, comma. And I'm gonna instead of typing everything, I'm gonna copy and paste that. So this one's gonna be for the loss. This one will be for the ERA, but I'll need to change the data type from int to double. And then this one will be for the strikeouts. That. So I've got the wins, and then I've got loss, and then again we'll have loss high index and loss low index. And then again, remember on the ERA array, change that to a double array. But all the indexes are still ints. It's just the array. So ERA, and again, ERA high index, ERA low index, and the last one is strikeouts, or strikeout. Strikeout. Strikeout high index. And strikeout low index. There. Then open and close curly brackets for the function. When index. Yep. All right. So go ahead and get that. We're going to need our index variable for our loop, and you know, we'll use the same good old for loop. I'll go ahead and declare that. And if you think back to when we found the high and the low values, what we did was we initialized the high and the low to the first element in the array. So we're going to do kind of the same thing here, but in this function, in this version, we're keeping track of the indexes, the positions of where things are. So the index of the first element is 0, right? So we're going to initialize our high and low indexes all to 0. I'll put a comment there saying that. Initialize indexes to 0, which is the first element. So when high index is equal to 0, and when low index is equal to 0. So do the same thing on all of them. So I'm going to copy and paste that. This will be for the loss. Here's for the ERA, and for the strikeouts. Kind of grouping stuff together. Win high index, win low index, loss high index, low. Cool. And then we're going to start looking through the rest of them. And if we find values that are higher or lower, then we'll update our indexes to whatever the current index is. And so set up your loop. I'll make a comment. Said, look through the rest of the arrays. And so on our loop, we can start our index loop variable to 1. We can start off at 1 because we're assuming that we're setting it up so that the first element in all the arrays are the highs and the lows, right? So we could start it off at 0 if we wanted to, but that would be one unnecessary pass through this loop. So we could say for index is equal to 1. Sorry. Index is less than num years. It's like what we're doing everywhere else. Index plus plus. And then you're going to have open and close curly brackets. And we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff inside of here. But it's going to be kind of repetitive. It's going to be the same thing over and over again. So let's deal with the win array first. So I'm going to say, I'm going to have a comment, look for new high and low wins. Look for new high and low wins. So we're going to test it. So the current element that we're looking at is in the wins array will be if win sub index, that's the current one, if that one's greater than win sub win high index. See the win high index, that's the spot of where the current high is. If that's true, then I've found a new high and I need to update what the win high index is, the position of where the high so far is. So I'll say win high index is equal to whatever the current index is. Like that. And I'll do the same thing for the low, but check to see if it's less than. So if win index, that's the current one I'm looking at, is less than win sub win low index. If that's true, then I found a new low, so I need to update win low index to whatever index is. Like that. Does that make sense? So it's a little bit different, but it's the same idea, right? Every time you go through the loop, you're looking at a new value from the array. Check to see if it's greater than the current one so far, the current high so far, and check to see if it's lower than the current low. But we're keeping track of the indexes of where the highs and lows are instead of the actual values. So when we get finished with this array, win high index and win low index will end up being an integer somewhere from 0 to 25, right? Wherever the high and low is, keeps track of the spot. And so if I can do that for the win array like that, I can do the same thing for all the other arrays, right? And so I'm just going to copy and paste that and change my names. So that'll be for the win array. This one will be for the loss array. This one will be for the ERA array. And one more, this will be for the strikeout array. So just go back and update which array you're talking about. So that was for the win. This is for the loss. Look for new high and low loss. So if loss, so everywhere you see win, just change that to loss, all right? So if loss of index is greater than loss sub loss high index, make sure you change those as well. Then loss high index is equal to index. Same thing here. Loss index, loss, loss. And then take the time to kind of read over things after you change them. So loss, loss. Yep. All right. Then I'm going to look at the ERA. So again, let's change all the win things to ERA. Okay, and then the last one is strikeout. All right, and that's it. And then you have the end of that loop and then the end of the function, right? So I've got close curly bracket for the loop, close curly bracket for the function. So again, it's the same thing over and over again, right? We're just doing it to different arrays. So do it for the win array, find the high and the low indexes in the win array, then the loss array, then the ERA array, and the strikeout array. Cool? So now we need to do the prototype and the call. This parameter list on this function is pretty long. I'm just going to copy and paste the heading and put a semicolon. That's the quick and easy way to do it. So again, I'm just going to copy and paste this. Control C to copy. Then I'll go up to the top where my parameter list is, my prototype list right there. And I will add it, I'll do a paste, Control V to paste. and then add a semicolon. Now I'm just going to leave the names in. I'm cool with it. Technically, you could take the names out if you wanted to, but in the interest of time, I'm gonna leave them. But don't forget to add your semicolon. Did I add mine? Yeah. And then we've got a call, right? The function call. You could paste this as well. Sometimes it's easier just to type it because you end up having to get rid of everything except names. So I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna call this one after find high low value. So the name of it is find high low index. And so I'm sending in the same order. Win, loss. No, sorry. That's when these little features like this that will remind you what your parameter list looks like. Dev does it. Dev C++ does it, and so does Code Blocks, I think. Sometimes it doesn't do it for me in Dev though, so I don't know what the deal is. So I'm sending win high index, win low index, loss. Oh, that would be cool. Loss high index, loss low index. I'm pressing tab to do this autocomplete thing in Code Blocks. That's a nice little feature. And then ERA high index, ERA low index, and then strikeout high index, strikeout low index. No indexes. Make sure you get the index. Don't always trust autocomplete. So let me read over that. Win high index and low index loss. Yep. So let's see if I have any errors. Sweet. There you go. Let me know if I need to move to a certain spot in the code or anything. I'm going to pause this for a little bit. All right, so those are all the things that we were trying to determine, right? If you go back to kind of our list of variables, there's the totals and the averages and the indexes. So we had this kind of temporary test code where we were outputting some stuff as we were going through. But now let's output stuff for real, maybe in a separate function to our output file. We haven't done anything with our output file yet, right? So I'm going to go down and I'm going to add a new function. And I'm going to show you some kind of cool things that you can do as far as your output goes. Now, this is going to be a really long parameter list. So I'm basically going to send in everything. But as long as we kind of have an organization to it, then hopefully it won't be too bad. So I'm going to say void, and roll in here, right? Output results is the name of the function. Okay. And I'm going to send in all of my arrays first. So I'm going to say const int, and I'm going to send in the win array. And then I'm going to say const int, send in the loss array. const double, send in the ERA array. Const int strikeout, and then I've got the team array, const string team. I'm going to close the square bracket for the team. Okay, so I send in all of my arrays. Now I'm going to send in, next I'm going to send in the high and the low indexes for each thing. That's just the order that I decided to do it in. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to say, and and also the high and the low indexes are all variables, right? I had passed them by reference into the find high low index function because we were changing them and stuff. But here, I just need to use them. I don't need to change the values, so I'm going to pass them by value. So I'm not going to put ampersands in the parameter list, okay? So int, and I'm send when high index, watch your spelling, and int when low index, like that, and a comma. Then I'll send in the loss high and low indexes. So int loss high index, int loss low index, and I'll send the ERA indexes. So int ERA high index, int ERA low index. Same thing for the strikeouts. Int strikeout high index, int strikeout low index. Okay, so those are all of my high and low indexes, right? The positions of where the highs and lows are in each array. That's what we're doing there. Okay, and then I'm going to send in, next I'm going to send in all my totals. That's the order that I decided to do it before when I'd written this program before. And so I'm going to send in int win total, int loss total, and then I had my strikeout total, right? We didn't do that for the ERA. Int strikeout total. And then I've got all of my averages, and all those are doubles, right? So double win average, double loss average, double strikeout average, let's go ahead and go down here so you can still see everything. And then the last thing is my output file. Always pass your files by reference. Remember, the data type is OF stream, ampersand, and then out file. So there you go. That's a long parameter list. But again, I tried to organize it somehow, some way. So I passed in my arrays, did my high and low index for each thing. And my totals, and then my averages. And then I said open and close curly brackets. So go ahead and get that parameter list. And then since that's such a long parameter list, After I get that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to copy and paste that from my prototype. And then I'm going to go ahead and write the function call for it too. That way we can kind of, we can go ahead and have output results running and executing, and we can kind of look at our output file and then add stuff and kind of build it as we go, rather than try to do the whole thing before we actually run it. All right. So after you get that, again, I'm just going to copy and paste it. So copy that thing, Control C to copy. Go up to the top. Control V to paste and add a semicolon. Okay, so I pasted it. And now I'm going to go down, I'm going to put the function call for that. So I'll just do it right here. And again, you can paste it again, but then you have to take everything out except names. So sometimes it's easier just to kind of do the calls from scratch. So what is it? Output results. So sending in win, loss, ERA, strikeout, team, win high index, win low index, loss high index, loss low index, and the ERA high and low index. Okay. Same thing for the strikeouts. Then the totals. Just be careful, make sure you're sending in, you're consistent with your order. So I got my totals and then my averages. Win average, loss average, strikeout average. And then the file. Out file is the file. Ooh. So after you get that, then we could go ahead and compile it and run it and just see if that works. Cool. And then I'm going to go ahead and open my output file and have it here so I can see what it looks like. The output file, I named mine rhinoutput.txt, right? So right now it's just empty. There's nothing in it. But that will change here soon enough. By the way, I'd like to kind of keep going maybe until around 1 o'clock. If you absolutely have to leave, then that's fine. But since basically we're not going to meet on Tuesday, if we stay and try to knock this out, or at least get as far as we can here, I don't think we need to meet next Tuesday, right? But remember, over the Thanksgiving break, sometime before we come back after Thanksgiving, there's 2 Chapter 6 quizzes that you need to take. So you can take those at home. You can use your book. You can use your notes. You just can't talk or communicate with each other about the quiz, right? So That's the deal. So how'd that go? Did y'all get it to work? If you're kind of stuck on something, then and you need more time to try to sort it out, you can just kind of watch. I want to try to get through this. So I'm going to go down to where we were in output results. So here's our output results function. Okay. So what can we do down here? So it'd be cool if I could have like a table. So what I'm picturing here is like a big table that has all of his arrays in there, but also tells me somehow where the highs and the lows are. So check this out. I can do this. So I'm going to need my index variable, right? And then I'm going to have some like a line of table headings at the top. So I'll just put a comment there. Output table headings. Table heading, whatever you want to do. And I'm going to say out file. And because I've done this in a previous semester, I kind of have some set width values already set up. So, but the first time I did this, I didn't know that. So that was just a trial and error type of thing, right? So I'm going to say set W12 and the word when. Oh wait, that doesn't all go in there. Like that. Set W12, the word when. And then set W12 again. And the word loss. And then in the field width of 9, ERA. And then I used a field width of 11. I put SO for strikeout. And then in a field width of 13, team. And then I went down to the next line. And then I just had a line of dashes. I can go back and add more, take away some if I need to. So I'm just going to see what that looks like. So it says my output file has changed. So I've got it loaded up and I can reload it by saying yes. So that works the same way in dev C++ as well. That's a nice little feature. So cool. So here's what I've got so far. So it looks like I need a few more dashes, right? So maybe how many more dashes do I need to add? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. About 7 more. Back over here in my output line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Cool. So I have the start of a table going, right? All right. So now I can set me up a loop that will go through and output values from my arrays. And also I'm going to show you a cool little trick that we can do with the indexes, with the high and the low indexes. Okay. So again, I'm going to set up a loop. And just say loop to output the big table. So guess what? It's that same exact loop. For index is equal to 0, index is less than num years, index plus plus. And then I'm going to have open and close curly brackets, and I'm going to output a whole bunch of stuff inside. So check this out. I could output the index if I wanted to, like this. And also the very last line inside of my loop, I'm going to put an indel there, okay? So just keep in mind that's always, we're going to add some stuff before that, but that's going to be the last line. So if I output the index, what is that going to output? It's going to output 0 through 25, right? Wouldn't it be cool if I could output what year it was? And I can do that. Here's a little trick that you can do. If you know what Nolan Ryan's very first year was playing, you could output the actual year. As I don't think he ever took a year off or anything like that. He he pitched 26 consecutive years. That's pretty impressive, right? That's longer than a lot of your ages are in here, right? So you could say, if you knew his starting year, which I happen to know is 1968, and add index to it, that will output the actual year. So 1968 plus index will give us this. So that's the year that he was pitching, right? And then we can output his win array. So check this out. I'll put a comment there. Output year. I'm going to say output win stuff. So we could say out file, and I'm going to put it in a field width of 8, win subindex, like that. Reload my output file, and now I've got his win values right there. See? Now here's a little trick that we can do with the indexes, with the high and the low indexes. Suppose we wanted to have like an H or an L maybe over next to where the high and the low is. I can do that because I kept track of where the index was of the high and the low. So check this out. This is what I'm going to do. Every time I go through, I'm outputting a certain value from the win array, right? I can check to see if that index, that current index, is the high or the low index. If it is, I can output an H or an L. So that's what I'm going to do here. So this is what it would look like. I'm going to say if index, the current index is equal to, remember two equal signs to test for equality, is equal to the win high index. If I'm in the spot where the high is, then I can do something like out file and H inside of parentheses, like that. And I can also check to see if I'm at the low. Else, if index is equal to win low index, then do the same thing, but output an L inside of parentheses. Right. But if it's not the high or the low index, just to kind of keep everything in line on my output, I'm going to output 3 spaces, because that's how many spaces a parenthesis and a letter and a parenthesis take up. Else, out file, 1, 2, 3 spaces. So what will that do? So check it out. So here's my win array, and when it got to the win high index, it outputted an H next to it. And when it got to the win low index, it outputted an L. And it gives me the first occurrence. If you might notice that I have 5 in there twice, right? It puts the L by the first occurrence. Because when I was finding the high and the low indexes, I did greater than or less than. If you had done greater than or equal to and less than or equal to, it would give you the last occurrence of those things. So it's pretty cool, huh? All right. So stick with me a little bit longer. If I can do that for the win array, I could do it for all the other ones too. So check this out. I'm going to copy and paste all the win stuff and just change all the names to loss or whatever array that I'm talking about. So this is going to be kind of long, but it's the same thing over and over again. Okay? And I'll just kind of do them one at a time, I guess, here. So there was the win stuff, and this is going to be for the loss stuff, output loss stuff. So output the loss array value, and then check to see if I've gotten to the loss high index or the loss low index. And if I do, if I got to the high or the low, I'll put an H or an L next to that. So there you go. There's your wins and your losses. I've got the L next to the loss low index and the H next to the loss high index. See where I'm going with this? So let's keep it going. Let's do the what's next? The ERA. So I'm just gonna. I still got it on my clipboard, I think. So I'm gonna paste it for the ERA. So output ERA stuff. So I'll put the ERA array and the ERA high index and the ERA low index. We might need to do set precision on this. I did the set precision for cout, but I haven't done it for out file. So you have to do it for each output stream. Because by default it probably won't show, yeah. Some of them it didn't show to 2 decimal places. So just somewhere before you do that, maybe here. Out file fixed, show point, set precision to 2. Like that. All right, so that'll take care of the ERA, and then I've got the strikeout. You can't forget a strikeouts, right? So I'm going to paste it again. We're going to output his strikeout stuff. Just a reminder, if you haven't finished and turned in program 3, the paste up program, you also need to get that turned in before you come back from Thanksgiving. Okay, so if you need more time over the Thanksgiving break, you can do it then. I'm going to be grading over the Thanksgiving break, so just keep that in mind. All right, so strikeout. There, and we got the strikeout high and low indexes. So do it the same way. So I'm kind of building this table up as I go. So there's my year, my win, my loss, ERA, and my strikeout. And take time to kind of double check where the highs and lows are. I've got one more thing. I've got the team. So that one's easy. That's just the team name, right? So that's just a matter of doing something like this. Let's see, I'll put team name. So that'll just be out file. I used a field width of 9. Team subindex. And then I've still got my indel as the last thing there. Oh, where'd I mess up? Out file. Win loss, ERA, strikeout, and team. Cool. So there's your big table, right? Now underneath there, we could output some other things like the totals and the averages. I think I could do that real quick. So I'm going to output another one of those dashed lines. Just to kind of keep it the same size and everything. I'm just going to copy and paste my other dash line. And that's going to go after the loop. And then I'm going to say output the totals line. So it'll look something like this. I'm going to say out file, and then maybe the word totals. And then in a field width of 6. Of course, again, the first time I did this, it was trial and error on those field widths. I'm going to output the win total. And then field width of 11. The loss total. I don't have an ERA total, right? So my next field width, I put 22, it's gonna skip over further to the right. And I'll put my strikeout total. And then an indel to go down to the next line. Let's see what that looks like. There's my total. Total's down at the bottom. 324 wins, 291 losses, 5,708 strikeouts. And I did something similar for the averages. Here's what I did. I'll show you real quick. Set out file. I think just to kind of get things to line up right, I changed the precision to 0. Just to kind of try to make it look pretty. And I don't remember why I did this. I don't think I need to do fixed again. Just do set precision to 0. And out file. Let's see what this looks like. Averages. Then ended up using a field width of 4. Win average. And a field width of 11. Loss average. And then a field width of 22. I did strikeout average. And then indel. I think it. So they're the same except for the win average, and I think that's because the word averages is 2 characters longer than totals. That's why I changed that, I guess. Let's see what it looks like. Sorry, I'm kind of moving kind of fast. Oh, I took the... I don't want the decimal place on there. Blah. How do we do that? Fix doesn't take that off, does it? When I'd done this before, I didn't do show point earlier. All right, so here's how you do that. It's like this. Outfile dot unset f. iOS show point. Is that right? Sweet. So that's what I'm going for. No decimals. All right. So there's your totals and your averages down at the bottom. Do you have just a couple more minutes for me to show you something else that's kind of cool? So there's your totals and your averages. That's all that we really kept track of, I think. But by keeping track of the indexes, we could do something kind of interesting. It gives us the ability to do certain things. Maybe something like this. Let me go down a couple lines. Output some other information. I could do something like this. Out file. This actual sentence. Nolan Ryan had his best year. Oh, sorry, best strikeout year in, and then 1968 plus strikeout high index. And then some more text in which he threw space how many strikeouts. That would have been strikeout sub strikeout high index. All right? And then some more text maybe. Strikeouts for the, so what team did he play for that year? Well, if I know the index for the high strikeout year, that same index will tell me what team he played for from the team array. Strikeouts for the team sub strikeout high index. And a period to end the sentence. Like that. I probably screwed that up somewhere. Let me see. Yep. So where did I mess up? I'm missing an insertion operator right there. So check this out. Let's see what it looks like. So down at the bottom it says Nolan Ryan had his best strikeout year in 1973, in which he threw 383 strikeouts for the Angels. Right. So by keeping track of the index instead of the actual value of the high strikeouts, I can do some cool stuff like that. Or I had a couple more. Oh, I did his wins. So let's check this out. I could, if you want to know his best wins year, I could copy and paste that. Nolan Ryan had his best, let's see, I should have said had. Nolan Ryan had the most wins of his career. And the most wins of his career in, and then 1968 plus win high index. Right. In which he had win sub win high index wins for the team sub win high index. Sorry, that's a lot of stuff I'm changing there. I probably screwed that up too. Nope. Nolan Ryan had the most wins of his career in 1974, in which he had 22 wins for the Angels. I'll do one more and then that'll be it, I promise. Some of us have to get over there and eat some lunch before 1:30, right? And then if you want to know his best ERA year, because the ERA is a little bit different. We're not interested in the high index. We're interested in the low ERA index, right? Because that's his best ERA year. Low ERA is good. I changed the precision back to 2. Set precision to 2. Nolan Ryan had his best ERA in 1968 plus ERA low index. That's the best ERA, a low ERA, in which he had an ERA of ERA sub ERA low index. For the team sub low ERA index. Oh, sorry. ERA low index. That. Nolan Ryan had his best ERA in 1981, in which he had an ERA of 1.69 for the Astros. So there you go. So that shows everything that we did.
What is ERA?
ERA is earned run average. So it's a stat that they keep track of in baseball. It's basically supposed to be like the average number of runs that the pitcher gives up during the game. Or is it per inning or not? I can't remember the exact stat. There's like a formula that goes into it and stuff, and it depends on if the batter reached base from a hit or a walk, or if he reached on an error, then that might not count against him as far as ERA. So there's a bunch of rules that go into it. I can't remember. I don't really watch a whole lot of baseball anymore, but I did when I was younger. All right, cool. So that's it. I know some of you, I was going kind of fast at the end. How about I post this video up on Blackboard, and you can go back and look at that as well. So I'm going to stop this. But that's one-dimensional array processing.